Hello and welcome to CIO News. I am Afreen Khan, your host for the broadcast at CIO News. This is our exclusive fireside chat powered by Goto. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website cionews.co.in and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. I am very excited to invite my guest today, Mr. Amey Lakeshri, who is the Director Cybersecurity, Privacy and IR at ENY. Amey has 12 years of experience in information security and IT management, including insightful knowledge of modern concepts of end to end project planning and implementation, activity sequencing, effort and cost estimation. And Amey, we also have with us Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Rahul has an experience of 22 plus years of across the CX journey, across leading brands in varied verticals like NBFC, banking, telecom, e-commerce, and at present with Goto, he is the head of customer success. And in his current role, he actually owns the customer journey and entire post-sales experience, which includes onboarding, adoption, usage, and creating advocates for life. So thank you for joining us, both of you. And we can just start the session right now. So, Amir, my first question will be to you. So, what does your typical role look like working in the post-COVID era?
Great. I think within COVID and then post-COVID, the dynamics has, quite adopted by most of the organizations, right? Because it was enforced this time in COVID that you have to work remotely, you have to be available in different time zones, right? And there are a lot of other challenges which came up with that, like from a compliance perspective or from the support perspective, right? Even the language barrier, right? Because earlier it was quite local and then we have to global. In that way you have to be have to take care of certain aspects as well. But post covid it has been quite unique, I'll say, because in covid we used to have 10-15 meetings over the remote, and now we have to again still manage that and also have to go sometimes on client side, etc. We did a couple of in-person meetings as well, which is quite interactive, and now people are liking it more to be honest, right, to meet people and greet people in person. But it is still continuing because it is quite people or client will meet one or two times, but they prefer the remote channels to have this kind of meetings. So I think this will be a hybrid model will keep going, and a lot of organizations we have already seen have adopted that.
True, correct. So, just a follow-up question to that. So, given the demands of today's distributed workforce, as you rightly said, it's going to be on a hybrid model. So, it's become imperative to scale up and arm your IT teams with the right tools. So, what have been the demands of your IT ecosystem on this front, considering it's going to be a hybrid model and we know that that's the way forward?
Absolutely. So when we say this hybrid model, definitely we need to first have the communication channel, right? Communication technology should be there, where you have a right ticketing tools or the governance structure above and above that, right? Where of course we'll follow some ITSM and different standards for that. And remote supporting tool is a key because we are not talking about hybrid model means what? We are talking about mobility, right? So that will also will be given to the people who are supporting them, right? We cannot expect them to be on site or at office always, and that's where the demand has changed now. It is for everyone, right? The hybrid model is for everyone. So this kind of we are looking. Everyone is looking for remote support kind of technologies, which will actually do nothing but enable their business, right? So these tools, you can talk about self-service portals. So there are a lot we can talk about to empower our IT team with respect to that.
So I believe your current IT help desk is fully empowered to kind of provide fast and efficient support, and even for now as well as for the future.
Absolutely. I
Any
mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, there is completely empowered, and we do see that adoption. And technically, we do see a different kind of buyers at the different end. So when I say buyers, as mean our customers, so our employees, right? And when we say that, those are completely diverse, right? They some of them might be tech savvy, some of them may not be tech savvy. They don't want to open any email and follow the steps. So we need to
correct?
have some interactive videos of 30 seconds, 60 seconds to them, which they can follow if you don't want to read. So you have to make that things available for everyone. And people are going to that micro level and thinking about the employees now. So mobility and I'll say the usability, feature perspective, the effectiveness is a key.
Okay, sounds great. In fact, so my next question is actually to Rahul on that. So considering you have been a part of the CX journey, so as heading the customer success at Goto, from your experience, what should be your top priorities according to you when considering remote support solutions?
Great question. And yes, thank you, Amey, for laying down the groundwork in terms of ratifying that there is a definite use for remote support solutions in specific. So, just a quick background, and let me give you some quick numbers here. So what started in the pandemic is actually still happening, right? Amey kind of referred to that very nicely, where he said that now it's a mixed bag, right? There are F2F, as it's called, face-to-face meetings, in real life meetings, which are also happening. But nobody's really said that, okay, we just needed remote support solutions for the COVID time, and now we don't need it, right? So it's actually, it's actually a nice bag to kind of, get into. So what started in the pandemic is actually still happening. You look at numbers where 6.5 or 7 out of 10 employees are saying they will actually refuse a job that does not offer flexible work or remote work. So there is a demand which has been crept in because of, COVID, but it's actually, kind of there. And by demand, I mean that the employees don't really want to go 5 days into an office, right? Even though and what does that mean is that there is absolute need for remote support solutions. And some other results basically showed that the real future of work conducted November 21 showed that 50% of India's hybrid workers consider themselves more productive in working remotely, right? And even now, even if you're coming in 2 or 3 times a week, you actually get tied up in traffic and you get stuck in traffic. You're actually like, okay, I want to work from home because suddenly that 2 hours you get, both ways. Maybe you're actually able to contribute and become more productive. Now, what does all that mean is that you have to make your all your products, right? Remote support solution is a very important one, be available. And Amey rightly said that it's enablement to the best possible, right? So with the ultimate desire to drive seamless employee experience, seamless end user, and that could be employee and customer, right? And of course, I'm assuming they're both the same. So I think what you need to do is basically, how easy is it going to be for someone to reach out when something goes wrong, right? Is it going to look for someone? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to look for somebody on the floor? Because that's the earlier how IT used to be. Or do I look for somebody globally? Right? Most of our companies work 24/7. We are working 24/7. So most of our companies are working, 24/7. So do I need to look for somebody in the early morning in Sydney, right? Or am I looking for somebody in PST, which is my 3 a.m., 4 a.m., right? And then, of course, they're not going to be available, on the back of my shoulder, on the shoulder. So how easy it's for it to, for us to reach out? So do we have the best remote support tools for that, right? What happens if I encounter technical difficulties? Can I do screen sharing at the start, like, click of a button, right? How easy is it for me to be elevated for an admin access, for example? How easy is for employees to report the issues? How quickly can a technician or an agent get facilitated remotely, right? All of those are very, very important one. And also, because flexible work in specific means that I should be able to connect through any device. So I need to look for a remote support solution which is seamless across devices, right? And also it should work anywhere. A car, a cafe, a lunch place, a restaurant. I'm showing something to my customer, maybe a quick demo is happening and my device stops working. I need to have somebody who can, immediately help me. So I think small things like that. And then, of course, taking into account the bigger connection, which is that I should be able to actually start a session in the quickest time possible. I think that's the biggest one that comes to mind.
So Rahul, I'll take a cue from your inputs and considering that. So Amir, the next question is to you. So considering that having the right tool and having your right priorities met is one half of the challenge. The other half is also ensuring that enough adoption is it happens to meet the ROI standard. So what are your driving forces when it comes to achieving the optimal ROI?
Okay, so just to on a lighter note, ROI is a myth, but for IT basically, but no, it's not. So it depends on what kind of ROI we are talking about, right? I mean, it won't be always the financial returns, right? But when you're enabling business, as even Rahul agreed to that, when you enable business and supporting them, it's about productivity, it's about time management, it's about your availability, it's about your, I'll say, diversity, right? All those aspects will get covered because of this kind of enabling this kind of technology, right? That itself is a ROI. Very simple example. Before COVID, we used to have how many meetings? Two, four, max, right? And now just look at our calendar, minimum 10, right? So that's a difference, right? And that's why we have increased the productivity. And we do see even in cyberspace, we have seen the market has gone to a different level. We are hearing about the recession coming from US and all that. It's not happening in India. Why? Because of this. Because we have actually gone to the next level. And with respect to the productivity as well as with the quality and availability, has everything has improved because it's quite simple. You got a time to improve yourself. You got a lot of tools. You got a lot of material content, everything to build it nicely and present it. Example, like I have to give a presentation. Probably I'm not ready, but I have some material in front of me which I can utilize while presenting. That I cannot do in front of 100 people in a meeting room. Usually I don't do that, but I'm just saying, right? That's one of the example. So there are a lot of benefits also covered with this kind of thing, which comes as a return of investment. So when you're investing, enabling this channel right now have helped us to reduce our travel cost, right? Probably for this meeting we would have traveled to some Gurgaon or some other location, right? And now we are sitting at our offices and home and we're taking this at what cost? As good as nothing. So that is our return of investment, I would say.
And just like to
And
add,
in fact,
sorry, Afreen, just would like to add in terms of ROI, right? So I think if you start to look at, and Amey kind of mentioned it, he kind of subtly mentioned it, but he was absolutely right, bang on when he said accessibility, right? Ease of doing things. Look at our examples all around us, right? I want to book a cab. I want it to be the easiest possible, right? Let me give you an example, another B2C example. So we all use wallets, payment wallets. I have started to use, I can mention another brand. Let me not mention the brand, but I've started to use this new wallet company now, and their UX is simply mind blowing, right? I pay bills through that. What I do is when I just click on the utility, it shows me all pending bills together. I just go and click on pay, and that's it, right? It's as easy as that. Otherwise, in a separate phone wallet company, you have to go look for them one by one. You see the difference? It's ease of finding information. It's UX, right? Now, when you look at ROI, I think again, right? You cannot quantify that. It's probably up in the air, right? But when you're actually looking at ease, right? No, when you hear somebody on the floor saying, I used a product and it was wow because I was able to start it in seconds. It was seamless. You know, talking about rescue, remote support, for example, it starts in seconds. You're able to see the full screen at one view. Like I spoke about elevation. So all of this sometimes comes in CSAT, sometimes doesn't, right? But I think your ROI gets quantified. Qualified actually, not quantified, because when you hear these comments, right? Because that's like golden. And then if you, of course, look at ROI separately, you have metrics like FCR, first call resolution. I don't have the same customer calling for the same thing again, right? Where I get my repeats down, right? That's FCR. I take less time to do the same call, right? That's my average handle time, right? So my HT come down. Surveys obsolety one. Survey is the one that I started to talk about. And I think a bigger one that all companies have started to look for is there's a lot of pressure, right? I may said 2 or 4 meetings have moved to 10, right? So look at technicians, look at agents who are probably doing 30, 40 calls or chats. They're probably doing 60, 70 now because now 9 hours non-stop, right? So you want to be able to give them tools which are so nice, which are easy to use, which are like, as much as possible, give them one view because what that does is it gives them motivation to continue to come and do the same thing every day and more of it, right? So I think that's also a very positive ROI. That again doesn't really get quantified, but it can be quantified in terms of attrition. It can be quantified in terms of my motivational skills going up, right? I'm having more happy people, on the floor. So I think those are again good examples of ROI that we can always refer to.
the great
Absolutely.
inputs actually, Rahul, because when we talk about productivity, I think that's definitely gone high when it comes to since the time we started working from home, 4 meetings to 10 meetings and the number of productive hours. People are wasting less time traveling and more time we are actually putting into work. So it really makes sense. while we are talking about enabling the IT piece of it, we're also talking about how productivity has increased. One of the more top priorities for organizations has been security. So, Amaya, what are the standards by which an IT support tool in your organization should actually adhere to, or what are your general thoughts on it?
Sure. I mean, interesting. When we talk about security thing, we can have a separate session altogether for that, because it's quite interesting and vast. So I'll take just one example. Like let's talk about Y2K. Right. In Y2K, we were asset driven. Right. ISO 27000 2005 came as asset driven. A next decade become a process driven, and now it is completely data driven, including asset and process driven, right? So it's like that. And now we are talking about data and everything. While doing that, while having this kind of remote sessions, right, remote support and everything, we need to protect our data as well, identity as well. We have seen a very common example of data breach is identity breach. Because of that, people are easily sharing passwords and everything, which should not happen. And there we need to have a kind of a secure solution which will enable the remote access or the remote support, wherever it is, client side, user side, anything, right? That is one. And talking about the standards, there are a lot of standards like ITIL is there. ISO 20000 talks about it. ISO 27000 talks about IDEM and everything. NIST 846, it talks about it. It talks about enterprise telecom and the security of access control and the secure access, how to enable the secure access. So it's basically on that. So there are a lot of standards which will keep on talking about different aspects to cover the remote support. But it's not only remote support; it covers IDEM, it covers your network security, it covers your infra security, it covers your data security. A lot of balls under around that. So that needs to be also taken care of.
Great. And so, the same question for you, Rahul. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Or best practices probably that you would add? Yeah.
So best practices in terms of security or just how adopting a remote support solution, because I think Amey is the expert on security. I cannot add anything more to that.
So probably,
So
anything, including both, I would say.
no, I think again, just giving my bit on security, right? So what I hear from customers is that it's as simple as like they say, okay, where is my data, right? Where is my data stored? So is it secure, right? So our product, for example, offers your own space, right? The customer can decide as simple as an FTP or their own server if there is a lot of volume, right? So we give them the assurances first of all, AES 256 encrypted, right? We don't see anything as a product company. It's your space on the cloud, right? And we can keep the data for as long as you want, as an example, so you can always go back and refer to it, right? So we start from the simplest of things, right? So we say it's secure. You set up the technician. So as simple as starting a session, right? They're like, how do I ensure that it's only my technician who's starting a session, right? Nobody else, right? So there is a very subtle feature which is a custom pin validation, which basically means that it's an OTP. Imagine scenario that when you get an OTP from a bank, if the bank has a kind of a guideline which says OTP should only start from, let's say, 200, as an example, right? Now we have that capability. We could say that you could obviously give a range like 200 to 700, random 6-digit number will be shared. But anything apart from that, suddenly the security team will say, okay, this is not mine, right? As soon as I see that OTP which got generated, and all of that is available in logs, right? Probably just getting into level 2 a bit. But just to give you a sense that we're actually secure in that sense, and all of these are features which are available to all our customers, including security teams, right? We go through a robust security architecture overview. We kind of give them a great view of what it is, and so that's on, just on the security point. But I think in terms of, probably looking at adopting a remote support solution, and what are the challenges? I guess that was also your question, Afreen. But so I think the biggest one is that you always put two sets of customers in when you start to do these project rollout, so to speak. So you look at your technicians, what are they comfortable with, right? What are they used to? Do they use four applications? Do they use four different screens? Because a lot of change management you will have to overcome, right? And it's mostly negative change management, because nobody likes change, right? If I have to go to a different office, right? From tomorrow, I'll be like, oh my God, I can't do that, right? I don't want to go to a different room to work, right? Forget going to a different office to work. So, telling hundreds of technicians to use a separate, product from tomorrow, it's definite change management. So I think first of all, you have to understand how close is your new product that you're thinking of to the old product, right? Try and make it as close. Try and make it more easy because then you can do a good sale of it, right, to the team. Because obviously, if they don't end up using, you just bought it and it's just sitting idle, right? And Amey is probably going to smile on that. So, and we've been through that, right? So, and then the end user, right? Easy. I think the ease of doing things, I mentioned this some time back, is absolutely critical, right? It covers under a lot of ROI. It can cover a lot of discussions with leadership, with senior management, where you can just say, you know what, I bought a new product just because I really like the way it worked and really like the way it can, have everyone work to it. And at Goto, our goal is to make IT easy for businesses, right? Both from the standpoint of employees, like I spoke about the technicians, and of course the IT team, the end user, because when you immediately extrapolate it to end users, right, you get a lot of SLAs, you get a lot of contractual terms in between, right? And that also is something that we can facilitate in the terms of again ease and starting of this thing, and a lot of metrics actually get covered as well. So I think the challenges, to summarize, are basically make it as easy, get over, change management, get your homework ready as to why this product is better. And I think some will take a day, some will take a week, or some might take months, but everyone kind of overcomes that in due course of time.
Correct. In fact, rightly said, Rahul, that it's not about just the procurement of a new tool, but also absolutely the adoption of the new tool by the people, the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, that's when you realize the effectiveness of a tool or a system until unless it is actually utilized for the purpose it is procured for. So that's it from my side. I mean, like any last thoughts for our viewers?
Sure. I mean, see, I think quite the message is very clear, right? It's all about awareness, right? And we need to make the right awareness to the people why we are making these changes or why we are bringing new tools, and more about this people, process, and technology should talk to each other. It should be integrated, right? You may have 50 tools, but if they're not talking to each other, that will, at the end, it will again, the ROI will be less, and your productivity will get down, right? In that case, you have to have that mindset, because I work in forensic division, right? So I do have seen a lot of cases in the investigation of ransomware attack and everything. Wherever we have seen some of the ransomware attacks, we have seen best of best tools were there, right? And we have seen some of the attacks has been happening because of the minor mistakes. Why? Because you had a technology but it was misconfigured. Let's take example,
Mm.
misconfiguration on cloud. The remote access tool was there, but the people was not having the right checks on that. I'll give you one of the
Mm.
example without naming it. Few years back, I was over there one of the place, and I got a message from IT team. I need to do some changes in your system because of this. I said, okay, you can do that, go ahead. And the moment I said go ahead, immediately the mouse started moving. Okay. So then I realized, boss, what are you doing? How can you do that? How you got access to my system? I immediately raised that because the tool was having a permission to do that without consent. And then I realized
Yeah.
and highlighted that there should be a consent and approval before that.
Yeah.
So this kind of mistakes may happen, which may lead to the breaches and incidents. So that needs to be taken care of. You just have to be aware about.
Yeah,
Even if you're using best of best tools, there can be a fraud happen. Or somebody impersonating IT person or somebody impersonating employee can do that. And that's the message I would like to give.
thanks, Amir. Any last thoughts from your end, Rahul?
Well, I think obvious last thoughts always put the customer in the middle of everything you do, right? And the customer definition could be, your colleague right next to you, your IT support desk, your technicians, your agents, your end user, right? It could vary as per the environment that you're operating in. And I think as soon as you're able to identify your customer and you identify what their problem is, right? I mean, right, Amey said, I don't even know somebody's actually looking at my machine till he's telling me, okay, do you want me? can I do something? And suddenly my mouse starts moving, right? It's like a no-brainer, right? You should not have that kind of system anywhere. So, just put the customer, understand what their problems, concerns are, and just kind of go about and identifying the right solution and then deploying an adoption, like you rightly said. So I think as long as you are customer obsessed, which we are at Goto, it's you'll just be able to crack a lot of things and just always give all products time. I think the second message would be that do not expect change to happen overnight. There are a lot of what can I say, negative emotions, positive emotions that go behind it, but it always takes time. So I think you just have to be at it because at the end of the day, it's a product that will get you the results. Probably a week, month, or little later, but it'll get you there. So customer obsessed, give products time. That's my message.
Great. So thank you so much, Rahul. Thanks, Amey. I think it was a great conversation, giving us a lot of insights and giving us a lot of significant pieces of information that I think people would definitely look forward to from the security as well as the customer journey point of view. So thank you so
Most
much,
welcome, Afreen.
and
Thank you for hosting
you
me. Thank
guys,
you. Nice to meet you, Amey. Thank you.
Great.
thank
Thanks
you.
everyone.